Hi all, we're back in the man cave of an acting teacher, would you believe, for another video. I think this is the 27th. I might have miscounted, could even be the 28th video of these that I've made, but I love making them, you know, they give me something to do every day and they concentrate my attention on something, which I think is very healthy for the brain and the mind. That's what we're going to talk about today, concentration of attention, and I'm going to refer to an email I got from somebody about a week ago on this subject, and also a little bit on a student that I was working with just this morning where the same issue came up for her as well. Now, what does concentration of attention mean? All right, there is a chapter in Stanislavski's book, An Actor Prepares, which I keep holding up, which you should read if you haven't already. Now, it focuses on that a subject of concentration of attention, but in various different ways. It talks about concentrating on particular objects and lots of different things. I'm going to talk about it a little bit differently to that, just to keep it a little bit less academic as well, and focus in on the specific issues of a couple of my students there, okay? So, a little while ago in a video, I talked about how it can be useful for some people to divide your mind into three sort of sections: your past, present, and future mind. Each one then has a positive and a negative, okay? So I have bad memories and I have good memories. I have things to be grateful for in the present and things that if I wanted to I could give out about and moan about because you know, they're not satisfactory to me, right? And then in the future, we have the future concept of us having a good future, a positive future, or of course, you know, we're going to be homeless and ruined because of something or other, and we're going to have some kind of negative future, right? And it's very healthy for you to try, if you can, to concentrate your attention on the positives of those rather than the negatives of those, for obvious reasons, okay? Now, the thing is, in life, we tend to allow our mind to be filled with a concept of, say, a person, for example, right? Who makes us feel very strongly. We do this in life, and your characters always do it in the scripts that you are going to be working on throughout your career. So in life, if you're hopelessly in love with somebody, they're going to fill your mind. You're going to think about them. You'll go to bed thinking about them, and you'll wake up in the morning thinking about them, right? If someone is, you know, mean and unkind to you, especially if you've been very generous to them, right? They'll fill your mind because you won't understand, you know, why they've been so horrible to you, and they'll fill you with very negative, toxic feelings, okay? Now, your characters in your scenes will be talking to somebody just like that because it's drama, okay? So it'll always be high stakes. It'll always be something huge of some kind. So they'll be talking to someone who, if they don't, you know, they'll be talking to somebody who, if they don't get them to go out on a date with them, then it's really important that they do, because they've pinned their entire hopes and dreams on being with this person, yeah? So they'll always be dealing with someone who's filling their mind, yeah? So if you can choose or find those things in your scenes that are concentrating your character's attention, you can pin your concentration on those things as well, all right? Now, the person opposite is a really good thing, you know, the other character to concentrate your attention on, because that person will be someone who makes your character feel very strongly, I'm in love with you, or extremely negative, I hate you and I want you out of my life, out of the, you know, out of this job or whatever it is that you're in, okay? In drama, we have three pillars, okay? There's always going to be, you know, your scene will always be in one of these three pillars: romance, conflict, or cooperation. So the person opposite you will always be somebody either that you're trying to get into a romance with, someone that you are trying to get to cooperate with you, help you rob a bank or, you know, commit a crime or something like that, or a conflict person who you are trying to get out of your life, all right? Because they've done something to you or whatever, okay? Those will cross over, of course, all right? Great example of that, I always mention it in class, is the film When Harry Met Sally. You've got two people who are friends, cooperative relationship, okay? That then moves into a romance, all right? They get together, okay? And then that turns into a conflict, right? They break up and end up not being in love anymore, and I think by the end of it they end up in love again by the end, okay? So it goes from cooperative relationship to romance to conflict and back to romance again at the end, okay? Now, if you can focus your attention, as the actor, of course, becoming the character, right? Focus your attention on, concentrate your attention on what your character is concentrating on, the other person, and how that other person makes them feel. That can help you to get rid of a whole lot of other distractions, okay? So we're concentrating our attention so that we're not thinking about, I'm not good enough to send this off to this casting director, or I'm not good enough to be in this movie anyway, why am I bothering, or I haven't done my homework right, or I haven't learnt my lines, or whatever the case may be. You can take the things that focus their attention and help them to focus and concentrate your attention, okay? I want you to imagine then, on a second level, this sort of scenario. Again, in life, right? We go around, like my friend who wrote the email, with, a lot of negatives going on in our head. If we try to avoid it, of course, and we'll concentrate on positives, but sure, negativity creeps in. We tend to focus on those people who have been mean to us, rather than on those people who have been good to us and kind to us in our day-to-day life, because those toxic feelings are very strong and they pull our attention back there, and we have to turn ourselves, in the other direction, right? And put ourselves into that positive headspace. So in the same way, we tend to kind of negativize, not even a word, but you know what I mean, our acting. We tend to say to ourselves, that person's going to do better than me because they're thinner or musclier or better looking, or they've got better connections or something or other, And we build up a whole lot of negative excuses that get in the way, right? But then if we can focus our attention or concentrate our attention in on our character, then all of that stuff to do with us tends to go away, okay? Again, in life, if you're in a situation where you're going through your day-to-day life going, I'm negative, and then all of a sudden something massive happens, okay? Like your child suddenly has a seizure, or you were walking your dog thinking about all of these things, letting your mind go from, I haven't paid the tax bill, to whatever, the car needs to be fixed, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, there's a car crash right in front of you, or everything else goes away. And you focus in suddenly into action mode, and you deal with the child having the seizure or the car crash or whatever it is. It's only afterwards, when you sort of sit down and crack open a beer and go, what just happened, that you kind of take a moment or take the time to analyze it and allow yourself to kind of freak out about it a little bit. At the time, you're not freaking out about it because you're dealing with what needs to be dealt with in that moment, yeah? Same thing with your characters. Your character will have something happening to it which is huge, which is taking up all of their concentration of attention and taking away everything else in their headspace in that moment. So they might be concentrating on getting that person to go out on a date with them. They might be concentrating on getting that person to do something that, if they don't do, will mean that both of them are going to die, okay? Or it'll be something massive that you can focus your attention in on, yeah? Now, that takes a technique, obviously, okay? But in your technique, you have all these concepts, right, that help you to concentrate that attention. And then second to that, you can actually be really creative with each of those concepts. So let's say you're talking to, your character's talking to a little old lady in an armchair, okay? And you're looking at that little old lady in the armchair, and you're using your powers of endowment, okay? And you're endowing that, I'll use my friend's example from this morning. She often talks to a treadmill, right? That's there when she's doing her self-tapes and things like that, and screen tests. That's where she puts the other character. She's endowing the treadmill with the qualities of being the other character in the scene, okay? So let's imagine that it's a little old lady in an armchair, and we're endowing the treadmill with the qualities of being that little old lady in the armchair, right? Now that's one thing. That little old lady could be sitting there looking blankly at me. Or I could say to myself, well, okay, let's make that little old lady a lot more active and alive rather than just an inert, blank-faced little old lady. Let's say that at the beginning of this scene, she's looking at me with a lot of skepticism, a lot of cynicism, a lot of doubt about me. And my job is to convince her, for whatever reason, I'm just making this up now, to trust me. Okay, let's say that that's what it is. But she's looking very much like, she doesn't. Get to a certain beat change, she's still looking like that, So I then change, which the beat change will have written into it, and then I can see that she's actually not looking so skeptical anymore. Then it gets to another beat change. Now she's got a little smile on her face. Then we get to the next beat change, the next time that the action moves on a little bit, and she's looking very brightly at me and she wants a cup of tea. Then I get to my climactic point and she absolutely trusts me entirely, or whatever the objective is, okay? So the entity opposite me is much more active and alert, and instead of being inert. And that can stimulate my concentration of attention, stimulate my attention. It helps me to concentrate even more on that thing because it is interesting to me, yeah? So try that for yourself as well. Make sure that, yeah, sure, you're using the concepts of your technique, great, good for you. But if you're finding that using that concept isn't exciting you, isn't stimulating you, then be creative with it. Make it a little bit more interesting for yourself if you can. All right, so the other way to train oneself, without going to class with this, right, or outside of class with this, is what Meisner talked about when he talked about daydreaming. Now, that sounds like a kind of a slightly flippant kind of tool for a technique, but in fact, it's really important. We're discouraged from it as children, right? But in fact, it can be enormously helpful. Imagine for yourself that you're walking along, right? And there's suddenly a car crash next to you. What do you do? Everything else goes away. What do you do? Who do you call? What number is it that you call? What do you do next? Do you try to move the person? There's fuel leaking out of the gas tank. What do you do? Okay. What if they've got an injured neck, but there's fuel? What do I do now? Concentration of attention on a major problem. Yeah. As I said, with all scripts, your character will have a core problem, a major problem that they're dealing with, which is certainly concentrating their attention. Can you train your mind to concentrate your attention onto their problem so it feels like it's yours, yeah? Imagine you're walking along the beach with your dog and you look up and in the rocks at the top of the beach, you see a foot which is attached to a dead body in the rocks. What do? You pull your phone out to make a call. You know, you don't want to leave it in case some little girl walks by and gets the fright of her life and has nightmares forever. So you stay with it, but there's no bars on your phone. You've got no reception. What do I do now? Yeah. And Meisner talked about this idea of just meditating, not in the spiritual sense, but literally taking the time to wonder, what would I do in that situation if something happened that concentrated my attention into that one thing and took away all of my distractions? That, I can guarantee you, is what's happening to your character, especially if your casting director or whoever has picked the scene, which is the turning point in the play or the film, or the inciting incident, which then provokes the rest of the action. All right, I better stop because I talk and talk. If you would like a class with me on this subject or any others, you know where to find me. I'm really enjoying working with loads of actors, new actors and actors that I haven't seen for years, you know, in Galway and Cork and London, and it's just lovely to be able to chat to people. I know, it's COVID-19, but focus on the positives or concentrate the attention on the positives a little bit. At least for a while, it can feel good. I hope you're well and I hope you're okay, and don't beat yourself up if you're not feeling good, because that's normal too. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks a mil. Bye.